While I don't actually have the definitive edition of Xenoblade X yet, I still do have a working Wii U and a physical copy of the game, so I thought I would make a quick showcase of some of the combat builds I used to use back when I still actively played this game. The re-release is pretty soon, and I've just been itching to get back into the groove of it. And yes, there will be no spoilers, so join me, and let's get started. Before we begin, I just want to point out that this video wasn't meant to be a guide, but more of me just dusting off an old time capsule of sorts and showing off how fun the combat is. None of my builds are optimized, and as far as I know, are all outdated. If you plan on picking up the definitive edition on Switch and want to use this as a guide, then take everything in this video with a grain of salt. This game is 10 years old after all, and I have no idea how much Monolith Soft and Nintendo plan to change with the Switch version. Now, to be upfront, this game's combat is either really freeform or really busted, depending on who you ask. So much so that you don't actually need party members to help you. You can solo everything if you really wanted to. One of the things that makes this work is the Overdrive system, which replaces the chain attack from other Xenoblade games. There's a lot that goes into Overdrive, and I can't be bothered to explain everything it does, but the TLDR is that at the cost of 3,000 tension points, for a limited amount of time, Overdrive accelerates all of your cooldowns to insane speeds, and the digit at the center of the art palette increases based on the number of hits your arts land. The higher the number, the further your damage multiplies, and it maxes out at 99. The intended challenge of this mechanic was to create the biggest chain combo you could possibly muster in a short amount of time. However, you can also exchange another 3,000 tension in the middle of your combo to reset your Overdrive time. With all of that said, here's my first build. I'll simply call this one the Infinite Resource. While my character is clearly wearing clothes on screen for the sake of fashion, I don't actually have any armor on at all. You can in fact do this combo completely naked, and you only need 3 arts in particular to do it: Ghostwalker, Essence Exchange, and Geolibrium. Ghostwalker creates a set number of decoys or instances that force the enemy attacks to miss and keep you alive, something that you can actually abuse with any build in this game. You will need to max out the Full Metal Jaguar class in order to get this. Geolibrium from the Blast Fencer class gives you health regeneration. And finally, Essence Exchange, earned from recruiting Yelb into your party, swaps your HP value with your tension value. This absolutely comes with the downside you're probably thinking of. If you have 0 tension and you cast Essence Exchange, you can in fact kill yourself. So don't do that. The only passive skill I would recommend having is anything that increases your max tension beyond the base value of 3,000. Overdrive costs 3,000 and Geolibrium costs 1,000. Having a max of 4,000 or more does allow you to perform both of these actions consecutively without much hassle. Using all of these arts in tandem with each other creates the infinite resource loop to fuel Overdrive endlessly. Essence Exchange gives you the tension needed by pulling from your HP value, Geolibrium heals you continuously as the fight progresses, and Ghostwalker lets you evade everything provided that you can cast it again so it doesn't run out. Every other offensive art can be whatever your preference is. The reason I enjoyed this combo is that there's no need to grind for any particular armor, weapon, or augment to make this possible. This simply requires some story progress to recruit one character, and hinges solely on your knowledge of the game and your execution. This combo is also what I use to defeat the final boss of the game's story, if you can believe that. At this point in the video going forward, I'm going to be using augments that fuel my tension gauge by a set amount with every art I use, so please keep that in mind. So here's the next build.
Assault hammer! No messing around, moving close. Fast grenade! Offensive stance! Burning slash! Rising blade! Assault hammer! Sensory edge!
I'll call this one the Burning Duelist. It's a purely thermal elemental build that utilizes fire attacks with the longsword and assault rifle weapons. This is perfect for exploring Noctilum and dealing with all of the plant and insect life that exists there. The skills I would recommend are Conflagrant Edge, which is a raw thermal attack boost, Heat Seeker, which increases your crit rate against enemies who are burned, and Long Topple. The goal is to essentially topple lock your enemies with Assault Hammer and continuously keep them on the ground defenseless and burn them while doing so. The Long Topple skill ensures that you'll have Assault Hammer off cooldown by the time the enemy is back on their feet for you to knock them down again. Burst Grenade will burn the enemy and keep your crit rate as high as possible. Offensive Stance gives you an immense melee attack buff at the cost of your own defense. Burning Slash reduces the thermal resist stat, and finally, Incendiary Edge is your big win condition. Power Dive is a nice failsafe to dodge incoming attacks if things get dicey and strengthen your next art. Also, some enemies are straight up immune to being toppled, so watch out for that. For instances like that, or if you just don't care to topple lock enemies, you can always just rely on the Ghostwalker thing again. The final build I'll be showing off will be using the Astral Crusader class that utilizes the Javelin and Sniper Rifle weapons for electric damage. I'll simply call this one the Lightning Barrier. One thing to keep in mind about this game is that there are only 6 forms of damage: physical, thermal, electric, ether, gravity, and laser beams. There are auras in this game that fully reflect a specific element back at the attacker, such as the Bastion Warrior's Super Shield or the Blast Fencer's Astrolibrium. In this case, I'm using the Astral Crusader's Raijin, which reflects electricity. If you have any other augments, armor pieces, or weapons that have a reflect effect on it, all of them become active at the same time when your aura is active, and naturally you will want your Overdrive combo to maintain this. Since my passives also reflect physical, gravity, and thermal in this case, Raijin basically makes me immune to 4 out of the 6 damage types that exist in the game, and you can definitely take this further. This is similar to how Masterpiece, the true Draco Slaying King, works for those Yu-Gi-Oh players out there. The rest of this build is just using the Javelin arts to actually maximize electric damage as much as I can. However, you can also use Sniper arts to take out aerial enemies that are impossible to reach. That's all I wanted to showcase on this game. There are endless amounts of builds that you can create, and finding new ways to break the combat was always a joy of the postgame. Sky's the limit, and I'm barely scratching the surface here. Thankfully now, there's about a decade's worth of resources that perhaps could be used to help newer players with overcoming how complicated this game can get. I didn't even mention scale combat since I regrettably didn't invest much time into it. Perhaps the Switch version will change that for me. While this isn't my favorite Xenoblade, it's undoubtedly a strong entry in the series on gameplay alone, and its influence is unmistakable. After all, this was the game that needed to walk for Breath of the Wild to run. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and definitely let me know if you're picking up the Switch version of this game. And finally, be safe, be kind, and be well.